Hi, my name's Colin McMahon. 9 years ago, I fulfilled a lifelong dream and opened my comic book store, Pittsburgh Comics. Since then, it's been great. I've met lots of great people, I've read lots of great books, and I want to share that with you. Welcome to Comics Now. Welcome to Comics Now, Episode 2. Thanks for coming back. This has been a crazy summer, and I wanted to talk about it a little bit. Back in April and May, DC stopped putting out books while they moved their company from New York to California and came out with their big Convergence event, which took up 2 months worth of sales time. So things were a little wonky because of that. At the same time, Marvel decided to do their big Secret Wars event, where they ended all of their books and replaced all their titles with new Secret Wars titles based on events from past years. So what happened is, over the summer, we really had very few of our regular books coming out. And it was hard on readers, and it was also hard on the shop owners. But finally, Marvel's back. In October, they relaunched all their number ones, coming out with a bunch of new books, new directions, and lots of new fun titles. Starting things off, we have Invincible Iron Man number 1. Tony's back. It's the Iron Man you remember. It's the Iron Man from the movies. He changed a little bit because of the Axis event that took place, I want to say it was last fall, where some of the characters kind of got turned on their axis, and he was no longer the good Tony Stark. He was more of a evil, conniving Tony Stark. Well, now we're after Secret Wars. It's 8 months later, and Tony's back. It's the guy we know. It's the guy you love, very much Robert Downey Jr.-ish. And he's, again, taking on bad guys. You have Madame Mask is involved. And she's a character that he's had a previous relationship, not just as a superhero, supervillain, but as a romantic relationship. And you also have the return of one of the big bad guys from the Marvel Universe. It's the Marvel's flagship book. It's a great jumping on point. It has their top writer, Brian Michael Bendis, and up-and-coming artist, David Marquez, who's really knocking it out of the park with great art on this book. We got 2 issues this month. We have more coming. Another book that's back is Amazing Spider-Man. It's 8 months later. Things have changed. Parker Industries, last we saw, his own personal company that started when Doc Ock was controlling him, is back. And it's stronger than ever. It's a new multinational company. We don't know how it got that way. And all of a sudden we have Peter Parker, but there's his bodyguard, Spider-Man. What's going on? Well, it turns out he's recruited the Prowler to be Spider-Man. And so now they can team up, and there's a lot of witty back and forth commentary. And it's the same, it's Dan Slott is back writing it. Giuseppe Camuncoli did these first issues, but I have a feeling we're going to have changes in artists going on in this. So 2 big books are back, and more to come. Coming up in the next few months, the X-Men books are back. We have Extraordinary X-Men and All New X-Men coming back, as well as Uncanny X-Men, and these are books that we've been missing for quite a while. We also have coming out real soon X-Men 600, which ends Brian Michael Bendis' long run on X-Men. It's a little bit late. It was supposed to ship in May, but it's finally coming out now in November. A surprise hit of the new number ones is Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange has always been kind of a fringe B-list character dealing with magic and monsters and stuff. And since I've been open, there's never been a Doctor Strange book. There was a little 4-issue mini that didn't do all that great. But so when they announced the new Doctor Strange book with Jason Aaron, who had a big long run on Wolverine and is one of the top writers in the industry, and Chris Bachalo drawing it, who is really quirky, interesting style, and he's worked on X-Men for a while. Them doing the book, it was one of those, this is either going to be really good or really bad. And it turned out to be, it was a big hit, sold out right away. A lot of fun. You don't need to know anything about the character. Everything's really introduced right there in that first issue. Doctor Strange, there's threats coming from a different dimension, and he's going to have to be the only guardian to stand in the way and save Earth. Also coming out so far, we've gotten 2 new Avengers books. We have the Uncanny Avengers, which has been a book that ended after Avengers vs. X-Men, the big AVX event where the Avengers and X-Men kind of went head-to-head, and there were deaths, characters were changed, some turned bad, some had different ways of looking at things, and they created the Uncanny Avengers team. Captain America brought them together saying we need a team with mutants and Avengers so that we can show the world that there's unity and that they can coexist and not to be afraid of them, because that was part of the problem, is people were starting to get afraid of the mutants and the superheroes. So the Uncanny Avengers team was born. Well, now they brought it back, and they've even added Inhumans, because they're doing a real big push on Inhumans. both, you're going to see it in the movies, it's going to be on the TV show. So they've added a new Inhuman character. The big bad guy is a new Inhuman character. But just to make things fun, they've added Deadpool, because everybody loves Deadpool. So with his movie coming in February, you're going to see a lot of Deadpool. So it was a fun book, a quirky book. There's some serious stuff in it with Rogue and the effects of the Terrigen Mist that created the new Inhumans and stuff. So this is going to be an interesting one, and we'll see where it goes. There's another fun new one, which is New Avengers, which is very much a quirky little team. It's made up of a lot of C-list characters, including characters like a Squirrel Girl and her sidekick Tippy Toe, a squirrel. You have Brother Voodoo, and lots of real C-listers. But the fun part of this one is the bad guy that they introduced is one of the big characters from the Secret Wars event. So the one mistake they've made is Secret Wars hasn't ended yet. It got late. The artist has taken a lot longer to draw it than they expected. It was supposed to end back in the beginning of October, but now it's looking like it's going to go to, well, they're saying the end of December, probably January. So one of the mysteries of this is, where did this guy come from? How did he survive this event? And so we're going to see where that goes. And it's a character who shouldn't even be in the Marvel Universe. He's from the Ultimate Universe. So this one has a lot of intrigue with these kind of C-listers having to take on someone who survived a major event that he shouldn't have. Another fun one, and this one's getting a little bit of national news, is Captain America Sam Wilson. Now, Sam Wilson is the Falcon, if you saw Captain America 2. And a while back, Steve Rogers lost his super soldier serum. So now he turned into a 90-year-old man. And he had to pass the mantle on to someone who could handle it. And Sam Wilson, being his friend from a long way back, became the new Captain America. Well, at the beginning of this one, apparently it was kind of done off screen. We don't know exactly what was said. But Sam Wilson, he was being interviewed and gave kind of a speech saying along the lines of Black Lives Matter. So whatever he actually said offended lots of people, including S.H.I.E.L.D., who revoked his security clearance, and he's kind of been blacklisted. So now he no longer has access to all the resources that Captain America normally would have, you know, the intel and things like that. And he's kind of now out on his own. And it's been very interesting watching him. You know, it starts off with him flying commercial and people confronting him on the airplane. And it's kind of neat that it has taken some news. He was the first issue dealt with him and some immigration issues, and I know some news sources kind of picked up on this book. So it's kind of neat with a book getting some real media play with the ideas that the writers are bringing forth. So we've gotten a couple issues of that one out. So if you're interested in that, come on by. DC has a lot of neat stuff coming out right now. Their Justice League Darkseid War event is really chugging along. It just concluded with a lot of the big Justice League names having major changes to their characters, and we're getting a bunch of one-shots out in November explaining in more detail what these changes were. This event has really been cruising along. It's epic, it's big, and you don't really need to know anything. You can jump on at the beginning of it, and it's been a really good ride. Very much looking forward to this, and seeing where this one is going. There's a couple new DC books coming out, some miniseries that are starting in November. One of which is Superman American Alien. It's written by Max Landis, who is the son of John Landis, big director, did Twilight Zone and a bunch of other movies. He also wrote the movie Chronicle, which is a superhero-type movie without using any big superhero name. So this is one of his first ventures into comic books, and he's tackling young Clark Kent. And basically it's not really a Superman book, it's a Clark Kent book, and how he grows up in the American heartland with the fear of aliens. And here, knowing that he's an alien and seeing the public response to alien threats and stuff, and being afraid of being outed, but also learning how to use his powers. The first issue, I was able to read a preview copy, and it's about him trying to figure out how to fly. And mostly he figures out how to float and doesn't know how to get back down. It's going to be a lot of real big writers, or real big artists are going to be taking on this book, and it looks like it's going to be a really interesting story. Now, the real big event coming out of DC is starting at the end of the month is Batman The Dark Knight Returns 3 Master Race. Back in 1986, Frank Miller created The Dark Knight Returns. Batman is in his 50s, he's retired, the world has moved on, it doesn't need him anymore, or so he thought. So all of a sudden, bad things are happening, and basically Batman is needed. He has to come out of retirement. He's out of shape. He doesn't have all the equipment and things that he needs to deal with the current day stuff. And he's taking on gangs and the Joker, and eventually he takes on Superman. There's going to be looks like a lot of play from this storyline is going to be in the new Batman versus Superman movie, at least from the trailer and some stills that we've seen. Back in the early 2000s, there was Dark Knight Strikes Back, which wasn't as well received. Frank, living in New York, he was writing this and working on it during 9/11. He was greatly affected by 9/11, and the story got late and kind of a little unfocused, and it's not viewed as well, but everybody's very excited that this is back, that he's back doing the book that really put his name completely on the map. And kind of to help prevent it from getting off the rails like the last one did, he's plotting it. Brian Azzarello, who wrote 100 Bullets, he's had a long run on Batman. He just finished up a big, long 3-year Wonder Woman run, is actually going to be writing it. You have Andy Kubert is going to be drawing it, son of Joe Kubert, just very good, solid artist with a great track record. And he's going to be inked by Klaus Janson, who inked Frank Miller on the original Dark Knight Returns. So there's a ton of excitement for this. Lots of neat features about it. It has a mini comic in it, which is going to tell a story like an actual comic book that would be coming out at the time that this story is going on. And that's the first one, I think, is drawn by Frank Miller. And there's also a ton of variant covers. They announced they were going to do store-specific variants on this. And instead of having to go out to get artists to do it, they were actually approached by so many artists who wanted to do a cover for this, because Dark Knight Returns was such an iconic book and is something that they all hold and revere greatly. And if you look online and see some of these covers, it's just absolutely amazing, just capturing their favorite moment from the original Dark Knight Returns books. And they're also coming out with a hardcover of each comic, which is going to be oversized, bigger than a regular comic, and the mini comic is going to be full size in this book, and they're going to come out about 2 weeks after the comic, and then after all 8 issues come out, hardcover number 8 is going to come with a slipcase so that you can then put them all in. The end papers are going to have a picture on it, so the whole thing is going to be a big wraparound picture. It's just, this one, I've seen tons of excitement, and I really think this is going to be a big deal coming out. It's going to start in November and go out into the summer. Last time I talked about the new Vertigo books that are coming. The first 4 came out, very, very well received. Vertigo has always been a little bit of horror, sci-fi, kind of the darker edge of comics. One of the ones that I really liked was Clean Room by Gail Simone. Gail Simone's been well known for writing Birds of Prey and Batgirl, and she started off in Deadpool and Simpsons, and has always had a lighter tone to her books, so it's just interesting seeing that she really had this dark side in her. She had this story that she wanted to tell, and it's a little bit twisted. It's about the power of something happened to this girl when she was young, and then she grew up and she started writing books, like self-help type books, but they're having impact on people that read them. Just really dark and twisted. We're 1 issue in, but it definitely left you at the end with wanting to come back and figure out just where this book is going. So there's 4 new ones coming in November, and they all look quite interesting. First one is Jacked by Eric Kripke and John Higgins, and basically a regular person can take a smart pill and all of a sudden he gets strong and smart, kind of like there's a new TV show that does that, but there's also a side effect where you're addicted to it and you want it and you crave it and you have to have it, and what will he do to get more of it? There's Red Thorn by David Bale and Megan Hetrick, which is basically legends of Scottish mythology brought forward into the modern world. Vertigo has a long history of the British writers, so it's neat bringing them in because most Americans don't know a lot about Scottish mythology. So it's kind of fun to learn about that, and also it's something new, something different. But as long as the writer has a real love of it, it can always be very good. Slash and Burn by Cy Spencer and Max Dunbar and Andy Parks is basically the story of a firefighter who is investigating arsons, but then there's also the question, is this firefighter also the firebug that's actually starting these? And so it could be, story, dual personality. There's a lot that they can do with this. So very interesting. We'll get back to Cy Spencer because he wrote a book that I'm going to talk about a little bit later. And the last one is Unfollow by Rob Williams and Michael Dowling. And just reading the little pitch for this sounds really good. A dying social media mogul leaves billions of dollars to be split evenly between 140 random people, or however might be left at the date of his death. So basically these people know they're going to get a percentage of this money, but for less people, they'll get more. So what kind of chaos will ensue from that? So that one sounds interesting and very Vertigo. Very human, what's the worst of human nature type of thing. Next is Image Comics. Image Comics has a bunch of stuff coming out. They had some really good, solid #1s come out in October, including Paper Girls by Brian K. Vaughan from Saga. Basically, it's an 80s story, and you're following some paper girls in a neighborhood. It's Halloween night, and the one main character is out delivering her papers, and she gets accosted by some, like schoolboys. And she gets saved by 3 other paper girls, and they kind of decide to stick together and go off. And finishing their route, all of a sudden they see some strange people in these hooded cloaks coming out of an abandoned house. They go to investigate, and we're getting into aliens and science fiction and just good old 80s stuff. First issue was double size, $2.99, really good read, really hooks you, and you want to see where this is going. A new one that's coming out this month is interesting, especially with it being election season. It's called Citizen Jack. Basically, it's a small town political figure named Jack Northworthy. And the different thing that makes him different is he worships the devil. And for some reason, this one demon decides to take an interest in politics. And all of a sudden, Citizen Jack is running for president with the help and influence of a devil behind him. So this could be fun, and you might be able to see it reflected in some of the candidates this year. Another new #1 that's coming from Image is Monstrous, which is supposed to be a big fantasy epic. I think it said combining steampunk and kaiju, which is kind of Japanese fantasy stuff. So this one could be interesting. There's a big push from Image behind this one, so I have good high hopes for this one. Another one called The Goddamned, which is another Jason Aaron book. And this one is a story in, it's a wasteland. This guy shows up in this wasteland kind of going through, you don't know who he is. At the end it turns out that he's actually Cain. And he wanders off, and following in his path is Noah. And Noah's not just collecting 2 of each, he's just kind of collecting random things and people. And it's dark and gritty, but it was interesting with the reveal of who the main players were. It added a little level of interest. Then there's Huck. That's coming out. New one from Mark Miller, who is well known. He wrote Kick-Ass. He wrote Wanted. Kingsman was a big hit this year, so he's back with a book with Raphael Albuquerque, who's well known for doing American Vampire. And basically, it's a small town guy who has powers, and every day it's his goal to do a good deed for his town and the people. And then all of a sudden, some outsider comes along and finds him, notifies the media, and all of a sudden now what's going to happen when this guy who just wants to be left alone and do his good deeds is confronted by national media and pressures and things like that. So that one looks good. Another one called Limbo. It's a detective story, which I like how it sounds. It's a story crossing 50s pulp with 80s visions, mixing John Carpenter, David Cronenberg, and David Lynch. So this one could be interesting, dark, twisted. We all kind of like that. And then Ringside. This one's by a friend of mine named Joe Keating, who's doing a book right now called Shudder, and it's basically the story of a wrestler. He was a tag team wrestler with champ. He's retired now, probably in his 50s. And all of a sudden he's called back because his former tag team partner now has run afoul of some bad guys, and it's his job to get his friend back. So it looks like it's going to be going a little bit into the world of wrestling. He's kind of reuniting with some older former wrestler who has a new young wrestler under his wing. And this one looks interesting. That one, I do believe also the first one is extra long. Although reading in a PDF, I couldn't really tell. Some more new stuff that's coming. Dark Horse is bringing out a Call of Duty Black Ops 3 comic. So if you like playing the video game, this book is going to be for you. It's probably going to go a little more in depth into some of the characters in the game. I don't play, so I can't vouch for it, but that's typically what they do. They kind of expand the story that's hinted at in the video game. IDW is bringing back, there's a new Orphan Black story coming, Orphan Black Helsinki, continuing on some other stories in that TV show. They're also continuing on. Back to the Future came out this month on Back to the Future Day, and it was huge. I thought I had ordered way more than I could never need, and out of the blue, I sold out on the day it came out. So looking forward. This is a little 4-issue miniseries, but so far very well received as far as the first issue, so we'll see where this goes. It's going back into the initial meeting between Marty and Doc Brown, so if you want to see how that goes, This is the book. And they're also continuing on their Green Lantern Star Trek book, which is kind of hitting a lot of people, you know, two big fan bases and merging them together. And I've heard nothing but good stuff from this, where you have the different lantern rings going into the hands of different Star Trek characters, Romulans and Klingons and everything. So just an interesting twist on some ideas based on those two kind of universes. Boom Studios is bringing out a book, Klaus, which is basically what he's calling Santa Claus Year One. So it's how did this character become Santa Claus? What events put him on the path to becoming the character that we know as Santa Claus, but as a much younger man, and what kind of travails and things spurred him to want to be Santa. Dynamite Entertainment does a lot of licensed properties. They do Vampirella, a lot of TV shows, quite often the darker side of stuff. They do John Carter, Warlord of Mars, The Spirit, things like that. They're coming out with a new James Bond book that's going to time, it's actually coming out the first week in November to time with the movie coming out this first weekend. So that's written by Warren Ellis, who has a long history with Vertigo. He's written a ton of stuff. He just did a run on Moon Knight. Very big. He's also a novelist. A little bit off kilter, but being British, he should have the, you know, give us a real good essence of James Bond. So lots of people looking forward to this one. Valiant is cruising right along. Their Book of Death big event just ended, and it's spinning off into the Wrath of the Eternal Warrior, which is going to be their next little 4-issue event. Valiant's neat because it's a small universe where all the books fit in together, and they also don't bring out too much. They try to keep their output down so that people who are fans can pick up all their books. Just real solid. I have a big display here at the store. All the volume 1s of their books are only $9.99, so it's a real easy way to try them. Everybody that tries them really likes them, but sometimes it's a struggle to get people to try something new. So many people are really in the Marvel and DC mold, and they just want their Spider-Man or their X-Men or their Batman. So it's nice when you can branch out, read something new. The quality on the books is good. They have really good writers, really good artists. So Wrath of Eternal Warrior is a new thing coming from them. I'll have plenty because they always make it easy to make sure we have lots in stock. So if you're looking for something different, always, you know, give a look at the Valiant wall and see if there's something you like. Back in 2002, Joe Field of Flying Colors Comics out in Concord, California, came up with the idea for Free Comic Book Day. His store is in a little strip mall, and he has a Baskin-Robbins, and Baskin-Robbins has free ice cream scoop day. And he noticed the line out the door all day long, and then when he talked to the people, realized that, you know, people weren't just coming to get one scoop and leaving, they were getting more. So it was a way to bring a lot of people in to kind of sample their wares, but also get, you know, more sales and get some return business. So we approached the publishers about doing something similar to this, you know, a low-cost book that we can give away for free. As we always say, it's not free to us, but we are happy to give them away. And Free Comic Book Day has been huge. Then the record industry took notice of what we were doing and started something called Record Store Day. But because records are a lot more expensive to produce than a comic book is, they couldn't, you know, give away millions of free records. So what they did instead was to create kind of something unique, something that just had a small pressing. You could only get at an actual record store. You couldn't get it online. You couldn't download it. It was only available in the stores and in a small enough quantity to make you have to go in and get that. So Comics Pro, the comic book retailer organization, kind of decided, hey, let's try to take back, not that Free Comic Book Day isn't successful, it's bigger, every year is bigger and better than the year before. Let's take back that idea from Record Store Day and let's try to do something different. So this year on Small Business Saturday, which is the Saturday after Black Friday, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, is going to be Local Comic Shop Day. And it's going to be a lot of variant covers of recent books, where we're limited to sometimes only one or two. It's also going to be unique things, like some books are it's going to be a special limited edition hardcover that you can only get at this time. And so it's exciting. I'll have the full list of products that are coming out. Sad to say, I can't hold anything for anybody. It's first come, first serve. You got to come down and get it, because in many cases I'm only going to have one or two. But it's neat. One thing that makes me really, really happy about this venture is Black Mask, who I talked about last time, doing the We Can Never Go Home, is a company that I've really gotten behind. I really feel they're doing everything they can to get readers and get books out into people's hands. And they're doing a bunch of different things for this event. They're doing a We Can Never Go Home Volume 1 hardcover. They're doing a Space Riders hardcover, and they're doing a box set of a bunch of their books that are tying into a combined universe. And they're going to have special connecting covers, so all the covers connect together between these issues and the trades, and that's going to be a box set. So I'm going to have all these things available, sadly limited quantities, so I'll have as much as I can. But just something to make things a little exciting, give the stores a little boost at the time when people are out shopping. That was kind of the idea behind it. So if you get a chance, please come down and support the store, or support, if there's another store near you that's also doing it. There's a local comic shop website, so you can see all the participating stores. TV is back and big. This is really the golden age right now of comic book TV stuff. Most of the shows returned from last year, but the new one this year is Supergirl. And amongst my customers, it's had really kind of mixed reviews. Some people liked it and some people really didn't like it. I liked it. I thought it was good. And I think it's definitely hitting a market that hasn't been hit yet. We've had the creepy in Constantine and The Walking Dead, and we've also had a little bit lighter with Flash, but this is, a new one. It's Supergirl. It's light. It's going to be fun. It definitely has ties into the Superman universe. It's CBS's first venture into the comic book, I guess, world as far as it's going. So it's just a lot of fun. Maybe on a future episode I'll talk a little bit more about all the different shows, but right now it's really a good time to be a comic book fan. There's almost more than I have time to watch. Now I want to get to my picks for the month of November. I already talked about two of them at Marvel. Invincible Iron Man, it's a great jumping on point. It's a character that you're familiar with, but you don't necessarily know this story. We don't know where it's going. It's got Marvel's top writer, an up-and-coming solid artist. So I highly recommend jumping on Iron Man, and also Spider-Man. It's a character you know. It's, everybody knows Spider-Man. Everybody loves Spider-Man. So it's a good story. The first two issues were really a complete story. So if you want, just something quick, something easy, you can read those two. It's a good story, and then there's a lot more to come. DC, I really can't talk enough about the Darkseid War in the Justice League books. It's been really an event-level book. It's epic. I'm really looking forward to when this one's done, and I have the actually collected trade paperback. Because I always get people coming in going, what's something new, something different? Because a lot of times they just want, they're going on a trip. They just want something to read. They don't want necessarily to read part one of a 6-volume story. And I'll be able to put this in their hand and say, here's a real solid read. So that one's I'm very excited about. The Vertigo stuff. Again, the biggest question I get from people is they want something different. In this Vertigo stuff, I've read most of the ones that came out in October. Every one of them has been good, very different. And from reading the descriptions of the ones that are coming out in November, I'm very interested to see where these are going. Image has been great. I talked about Paper Girls, talked about the upcoming Huck, which sounds really good. The other one I love is Tokyo Ghost. I found Sean Gordon Murphy when he was doing Punk Rock Jesus, book that I only read because of the title. I'm like, I have to see what this is about, and just fell in love with his art, and he's just gotten better and better. He did The Wake with Scott Snyder, one of DC's top people, and right now he's doing Tokyo Ghost with Rick Remender, who just finished his run at Marvel. Story about the future where internet and everything like that has just become so overwhelming that people can't get beyond it. And the main character is this girl who is completely detached. And she now is on a mission to get to Tokyo, where it's a completely internet, electronic-free area. And she's trying to get her boyfriend with her, who is obsessed and completely sucked into that world, get him to safety, to a place where there isn't any. So we just got 2 issues out in that. The art is just spectacular. And it's a really, really cool story. The last one I want to talk about is a trade that I found last year. Like Punk Rock Jesus, it was a book I only picked up because of the title and because of the cover. And it was Six Gun Gorilla. And when issue 1 had that cover, it was one of those, how do I not pick this book up? And it was one that I just really fell in love with. The first issue has quite possibly the single best last page of a comic I've ever read. Just one of those, you read it, you just turn it, big smile, and you can't wait to get onto the next issue. And it was really a great story. I didn't know where it was going, which is always a problem when I'm recommending a book, because I'm reading along with you guys, and the first one was really good, and I hope the rest are good, and I push it on people and recommend it to people. This one's finished so differently than you can ever imagine. It really doesn't have a lot to do with gorillas. But it's a story about the love of stories and the ideas of stories and how important they are. So it's something I always have a ton on hand because I never want to be without this in the store because I really believe in it, and it's one of my favorite books that I've read in a long, long time. Oh man, I can't believe she killed Graxus like that. That was insane.
Aw, crap.
What's wrong, Sam?
I totally forgot I promised my dad. I have to go help my dad with something back home. We have to fix this thing for my mom. I totally forgot about it. Totally forgot.
Lame.
I know, I'm sorry. I'll see you guys on Monday.
You don't need a ride home?
No, I'm good.
So what do you guys want to do now?
Dad!
Sam? What are you doing here?
Helping out.
It's one of your nights off, Sam. I can handle this.
Dad, I'm here to help. What's going on? Are there people inside those houses?
I don't know yet.
Then let's go make sure there aren't. Hello? Anyone in here?
Hello? Dun dun dun. So that's our show. Thanks for watching. If there's anything you want me to talk about or anything you want to know more about, please let me know. You can always find me at the store. The website's pittsburghcomics.com. I'm on Facebook at Pittsburgh Comics and on Twitter at PGH Comics. Join us next time for our special holiday episode. Thanks for watching.